Now, first of all, there's all my ranks. I have since gone through the save file and gotten most of them up to A's. Pretty happy with that. I got a AAA on Manowar once, and I can't replicate it, and I don't know why, and it makes me so
Sigma.
mad.
Just like old times.
Ah, Zero sounds so happy.
Does it remind you of the virus?
So, you heard about that? He tried to use me to destroy the world.
We're getting close to our rallying call here, kinda.
And turn him into a pile of molten scrap. Be my
Which-
navigator.
Think about that from, like, an equivalent perspective. Pile of molten scrap is pretty vivid when you're talking about, like, basically your own race.
I'm gonna reduce that douchebag to a pile of viscera and organs.
Basically. So, pretty up there.
Here I come.
So, we are now coming up to everybody's favorite. We've got the last refights. And this one does a bunch of stuff completely correct. Like, I can't stress enough how excited I am for this particular set of refights. And it's for, I think, two
Make no
main
mistake.
reasons.
Sigma is definitely in here somewhere. Be careful.
I think one of the big ones is that there isn't an actual stage here, it's just the refights.
Well, a lot of the refights are kind of like that. There's usually, in the later games, there isn't a lot of stage present. The final run in these ones are or in X8 is pretty short, all things considered, though. So, the very first obvious one, outside of the fact that this is kind of a difficult room to navigate, you'll see me stumble all over the place, is all of these teleporters are color-coded, and you can very easily infer what Mavericks are in what teleporting areas, which is really, really, really nice, and it's something that I don't think really alters the challenge of it at all.
No, not really.
Like, it's something that I never really understood wasn't present more often.
Probably due to, like, game limitations originally, but...
Yeah, but you'd think immediately after, like, one, it wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
You could even just put them on top of tile sets. Like, it really wouldn't be that big a deal. So, finally, all the way in, we've got that. The refights will have... Basically, it's the same. Like, they're the same fights, they've got the same weaknesses, they have the same overdrive cues. This is the other thing, though, is it actually addresses what the refights are. These aren't duplicates or the same Reploids brought back to life or kind of soullessly reanimated. They're new generation Reploids. These are completely different things that are
masquerading as bosses.
Exactly.
It's great that they're like tying the story into the gameplay a bit.
Exactly. It's something really subtle, but like that's a completely new animation that they made just for this. And I think it's really, really cool that they did, because it kind of pulls the whole thing together and makes it more cohesive.
And like in this one, you're in moon dust right now instead of snow.
Yeah. That's the other thing, is there's actually vaguely re-themed versions of the boss rooms versus, like, it's literally just the same arena, except, like, tinted slightly different.
Yeah.
So it is a blend of this is the same, and also this is completely new. And I tried my best to do EX finishers on a couple of these guys, but I don't pull that off. I think I just ended up doing it where applicable.
Yeah.
Which isn't a problem. Then, naturally, there's a full heal after each one, which is nice, but also makes it so that you're only fully healing one character. I don't know what it does to the sub-tanks, because I don't have to do it very often. And then there's also medals and the little diamond items to help you charge up your double attack gauge if that's something that you want to do during the boss fights. I think the only thing that I would make this even better is if there was a way to re-choose your team after each boss fight, which isn't something that I feel like you need to do. It certainly isn't something that I thought of until literally right now, but I think that would be an extra kind of push of like, okay, this is the final part of the campaign, everybody's involved now, there's a lot of fighting going on, and we need the ability to kind of be in this together. That would have been really neat. I don't know how they would have implemented it, so that would definitely be an instance of, okay, technical limitation, stuff like that. And actually, that kind of comes up in the next level on hard, in a way, but that's something that we'll talk about when we get there.
Right.
But yeah, I love the aesthetic of Gateway. I think it's really interesting.
Giant fucking organ in a space station.
And it's worth mentioning that this isn't the moon base. We're not on the moon, and we're not on the orbital elevator. This is kind of a between station. So the implication there is that the orbital elevator isn't completed yet, and people haven't really fully started colonizing space yet, which is ironic because there were already space colonies. We've seen them now. But the way that this whole setup is supposed to work is they're taking over mid-construction, basically. And I use... This is my favorite. I didn't get to do this in this run. This is one of my favorite weakness weapon effects in the series. That lightning rod effect, to me, is super cool, and it does also do more damage to him. Those weapons will also destroy his jellyfish minions, which other weapons won't do. That's part of why I was using Axel and Bound Blaster earlier, just to kind of help clear it. There's not a lot of threat there, but it just makes it a little bit more convenient, and because you're encouraged to actually switch between your characters, and there are positives and negatives to each of them, there's no reason to not do that, which also makes this set of free fights a little bit more enjoyable than they have been in the past. What else you got?
I really like that they're going with an orbital elevator in this one. Like, they did some research on it. Like, it's placed in the Galapagos.
Yeah.
Which is where you'd want to put your elevator, like, on the equator. But it's missing some vital components. Like, you'd need a gigantic counterweight at the top of it, which I did not see at all.
Axel is Mile is the counterweight.
Unless this station is supposed to be the counterweight at the top of the elevator, but you don't really see at the top.
Yeah, you don't see that. I mean, this is also the fiction where teleportation technology is a thing, so it's not... It's nice that they tried, like, it's present, and, you know, they didn't... They went with what I think felt right through the game.
And, like...
Nice. Although, that said, this really could be a station on top of it. I think that would be really cool.
But, like, if it were a realistic space elevator, it wouldn't look at all like what it does in game. It would just be, like, a single cable with an elevator car, not a tower, but that's far less visually interesting. So.
Yeah, and it's the case in, like, basically every piece of sci-fi.
Yeah.
So, this is an interesting weakness effect. The squeeze bomb will actually destroy his armor and then suck all of it off in components. Squeeze bomb will also over-penetrate, like, the charge attacks, as will Axel's Spiral Magnum, and I'm assuming Zero's swings will go through it kind of in general. I haven't used his weakness, or his version of this weapon against Trilobite at all, but I think it's pretty cool. Honestly, I think, again, something that would be a nice addition to that is if it went passing through the crystal walls, it would kind of suck up the debris.
Right.
Which doesn't damage you at all, so it's not necessary. Although I'm pretty sure it does absorb those shots as well, which are, as a side note, the component for Bound Blaster for Axel.
What does the charge shot do? Because it didn't seem to do jack shit.
I think it's one of those ones that's kind of a vague terrain-altering thing. I'm sure it would wreak havoc on minor enemies. So kind of like Gravity Wells charge shot from X3. It's one of those ones that's in the unfortunate bracket of you'll probably never actually be in an instance where you need to use this, but it's cool that you can. But yeah, one thing that actually I just reminded myself of that I really like about the bosses in this one is that each character obviously needs to get a weapon or a technique or something from the bosses because everyone needs to be a fully fleshed out playable character. And each boss does that attack in some form or another. So for example, for Pandemonium, we've got green spinners, we've got Axel's grenade launcher right there, and then his desperation attack and those jabs are what you would get for Zero's stab techniques. And all of the bosses are like that. They all have something along those lines. And granted, some of them are a little bit on the weaker end, so like the electric dash isn't really something that Manowar does, but he is mobile enough and electric that you can kind of assume, like, okay, this is at least thematically appropriate.
Right.
But almost 100% of the time, you can see them do that attack somewhere in the fight, and I think that's really cool, because there's a lot of times in X games, or Mega Man games in general, where you'll be like, oh, okay, cool, he's got this power, so clearly I'm gonna get this, and then it's like something completely different, and you're like
with Bubble Crab?
Yeah, Bubble Crab doesn't really do Bubble Splash in any way. Like, he does have that kind of disc that he'll throw out every now and then, but Bubble Crab's main thing is the giant beam claws and the small minor Reploids that he'll spawn. Or, I guess they'd be Mechanoids. Well, I hope not Mechanoids, otherwise you're ending a lot of lives there, but the point is that it's nice that they had that cohesion in mind. You can even see Antonian do Zero's thing as well. I think I try to get him to do it in this. I don't remember if it's visible on the screen at all. but he does totally do it. He'll kind of, I think I mentioned it in his fight, is he'll pull out debris and kind of form it into a claymore.
Emergency!
Yeah.
And
Emergency!
it
Return
isn't
immediately to the
immensely
teleportation
powerful, but
site.
it's nice that the thought is there.
Also, we are completely done with refights. We're done
With the refights.
with the refights. No more refights.
That was the last one.
The nightmare is over.
So don't dawdle here. That will fall into space, but you would float, whatever. And now we've got the actual stage boss, and this is really, really cool. Really, really important for a lot of reasons that will become apparent as the run continues and completes.
Sigma?
We're fighting the first form of Sigma now, even though this isn't the final stage.
Sigma.
And pay close attention to how he words all of this.
Every human
Or at least
in the
that
entire
part.
world? You're completely mad. I'm putting a stop to this right now.
Put a stop to what? We already control the moon.
Moo!
That lizard came from the moon.
God damn it.
I will usher in a new world to replace it.
God, I love that he has lip flaps. God
Perhaps
damn
it's
it.
time for
Yeah,
our
everyone
final
does.
showdown.
I think actually even X in that armor does too, you just can't see it because of the face
Yeah.
cover. So, this is a fun fight. It mirrors a lot of his previous encounters, which I really like. So we have the beam saber dashing and kind of classic design from X1, and that attack is very powerful. He's got a lot of invulnerability stages. He has that, which is kind of a new addition. He's had projectile things in the past. That, I'm pretty sure, if you don't interrupt him, will send out a giant crescent wave, which is something that he does a lot in the PlayStation 1 era. And he also will eventually have a sweep across the ground that will, not that, like a laser sweep, that will light the whole ground on fire or the wall on fire, depending on whether or not you're on the ground or the wall. That's right now. And that is very reminiscent of the end attack from X4 and his laser eyes from the same fight, the second phase in the X4 run, as well as, other beam sweeps that he's done in the past as well. So he's a really good conglomerate of all of Sigma past, basically, which is really, really important for this whole component of the
I just
story.
love how restrained his design is in this one.
Yeah, it's exactly right, and coming up we'll see more. But
It's not Sigma!
it's not Sigma, and that is so vitally important for all of the end of this plot, and I love it so much. I love how X8 wraps up. It's so good, and I can't wait to share the ending with all of you.
You got through that stage as if it were your own backyard.
Gundams descending onto different parts of the island have begun to fight against the first enemy they encounter.